How you doing, everyone? Oh, hi, Smoke Eater. Javi. Javi, are you a real person? Poor guy. Hey, Williams Watches and Joseph and Richard. How you guys doing? Donald, aloha yourself. Aloha, my God, it must be. What time is it? Is it tomorrow in Hawaii? Williams, level 11. Hey, Oystein, are you from Sweden? I mean, not Sweden, but Norway? Hey, Hughes, Mark. Hey, Clyde, how is everything going? I've been reading about Oklahoma in the news a lot. Hope everything's going okay. Hey, Bruce, 10 a.m. All right. Okay. Uh, Norway. Yeah. Okay. I put up a little note earlier today about Norway. There's some other guys from Norway who come. Apostos, how are you? What about H. Moser? Did you just get one? Stayed up. Okay, well, oh, what? You guys went from 0 to 1,000. It seems in Tulsa. We're finally on the downtrend. We were level for a long time. I think it's finally starting to go down. Hey, Raj. Hey, Truth News. Oh boy. A lot of stuff going on I wanted to talk about. Um, One of the things was the deal with the Grand Prix. What I'm doing is that there it is. Woo, what happened? Oh my God! Sorry, guys. Wait. Am I? Doggone it. Okay. Okay, you can hear me, but you can't see me. Okay, you guys can hear me okay? Does it sound all right? So you can still hear me, but you can't see me. This stupid thing, let me see. Hang on. Let me see if I can get it. Okay. Sight and sound works. Stop fiddling. Oh, so you guys can see me okay. All right. And you can hear me? Is that right? Yawn, sneeze, something. Sound and video great. Okay. I can't see what I'm doing here, but I can see you, so I don't need to see me. I have no idea what just happened. So I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Hey, Kurt, how you doing? Orange hand, Donald, everyone. Okay, so you can see this. Okay, good, 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 good. Um, what I was trying to do, I was trying to bring up some other stuff that I had. I have all of this stuff, and so I had to bring some of it up. Okay, and all right. Okay, doke. Uh, the first thing I wanted to mention to you was that the other day I was wondering what had happened to to the Grand Prix d'Horologie de Genève. All right, I didn't know, I wasn't sure whether they were going to have it or not. All right, and so usually by this time, they have the all of the rules and all of the categories and everything set up for it. And then they at some later point they then have all of the entries, and so that's when we generally open up the Grand Prix picks, and everybody can choose the one they want, and they can win a watch. Last year we gave away three watches. The first watch was to the person who picked the best, had the best picks in terms of the pre selections, and the second watch went to the person who picked the best winners, and the third was to someone who picked the Grand Prix winner. So that was, and we've been doing that for a number of years now. So let me say, Brendan, Tony, how you guys doing? Mark Mayer, how are you? Okay, good. We got everyone here. Everyone's squared away. So I was wondering what happened. So I got a hold of the gal who is in charge of getting everything coordinated, and it worked out fine. There was no problem at all, and she said, "Yeah, we're going to have it next week." So, beginning, I guess it'd be on June 22nd, sometime around there, which is beginning. That's Monday. We ought to start seeing the what the different categories and so on and so forth are for the Grand Prix. After that, there'll be some entries, and after that, there'll be the first cut, and then in November, they already have it set up for November. That's when they'll have the announcements, and we'll give away the last two watches. Okay, hey Geezer, how's it going, man? So that's where we are on those. Okie doke. Now, one of the things I was wondering is whether the watch companies are going to be ready or not. And one of the groups of watch companies are the German watches. I haven't heard much from them except for Marco Lang. And Marco Lang had said that he's going to have the stuff ready this summer. And then recently, I just saw that he announced he's not going to have his new watches until October. A couple of years ago, I met Marco when he was at the Watch Time show in New York, and we had a good talk. And I got one of his watches, a Frederick the Second. I got that later, and always have been a big fan. Okay, so that's where we are right now. Uh, so he's not going to have a watch, I don't think. And I'm not sure how many Swiss watch companies are going to be ready. And so I don't know what's going on with that. Okay, the other thing that I had was that, and this is one of the things I got sort of goofed up on. I We had talked about looking at other movement companies, and there was this one I found called Swiss Technology Production, STP. Have any of you heard of that company or know any watches that use them? Anybody? Raise your hand. Do something. Hey, GMT Master. Um, STP is fossil. Aha. Okay, so that explains something. So they're all right. So they're fossil. That's not they're there's no indication of that on their website. But does that mean Fossil uses them or they're owned by Fossil? But I'm sure they are. I sold the watch because of the STP. Okay, in other words, you don't think too much of them. It's Fossil's movement company. Okay, all right. Well, anyway, I got a hold of them and I had their catalog. Now I should have known something was up because their lowest price movement is $61. I think, well, everyone can afford that. And the most expensive one goes up to, let's say, and these aren't dollars. Actually, those are Swiss francs that are very close to dollars. The most expensive one is $300, 299. So, I mean, compared to the other ones we've been looking at, these are quite a deal. And now that I know that they're owned by Fossil, or they're Fossil's watch movement maker, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so anyway, I thought, well, maybe that might be an alternative that we could look at. Now, remember how we started this thing? We started with, let's see, I got them right here. Haven't lost them. Sort of to rewind everything and remind everyone. Okay, we started with this, all right? This is the Time Here and Time There by Van Cleve and Arpels. Now, here was the idea. This is a dual timer, and it's got the minutes and the jumping hours. And so the idea was that if they just took out one of the jumping hours, and that was all they would have to do, and maybe they could make a movement for us, and also take out the automatic and make it a wind up, maybe save a little money on that. That was the plan initially. Okay, this didn't have any gigas on it or any other thing. It was just like, if they could do this, this would be a nice simple thing. And this is what the movement looked like initially. Okay, this is the movement, and simply by removing one of these jumping hours, and that would be it. And then we came up with a lot of different ideas for a lot of different ideas. Now, this thing I would like to have, the retrograde with the jumping hour. And remember, the only thing you'd have to do to it is knock out or simply take out one of the discs that they use for jumping hours. And this was one of the design that won, even though we wanted to do it with a plain enamel. So it just sort of was sort of a rewind. Now, in the meantime, we found a lot of things like this. This is a Gerald Genta, which is exactly what we wanted to do in terms of the design. It had the retrograde minutes, and then at the bottom, the jumping hour. And so this I thought would be a really cool thing. So this was the starting point. Now, the thing of it is that I don't know what Agenor is going to be doing. In fact, I don't know if they know themselves, because a lot of different things we're trying to do. Here's another one, by the way, that uses that same thing with the retrograde minutes and the jumping hours at the bottom. But I don't know if that's by Agenor or not. But anyway, just to point it out where we've been. Now, the other options, we have we wanted to get a center seconds on the UWD. The 33.2 is to have the center seconds, but that's been delayed for some reason. And so that's sort of off to the side, but they still have the small seconds at the bottom, if that's an option for someone. Now, that's $4,000. The one from Rolf Lang is $5,000. And then, of course, there's the ones that are 1,000 from Vossure, which would be really great. But then we got to come up with a whole bunch of people, like about 25, I think, in order to get those. So that's just sort of a roundup on those. Now, so far we've got two German movements that we're looking at, and with the STP, we've got two Swiss. All right. So that's pretty much our three counting three counting everybody. All right. So that was sort of bring us up to date on that. Okay. All right. Hughes, no, you're not being a snob. This was the thing is that this is how come I think it's important for us to talk about these things. Is that we can find out about it. Somebody this morning, I really didn't know that much about. Um, I really didn't know that much about STP, and I got all that information. Had to go through a lot of rigmarole for that, and so by having these kinds of discussions, I can find out. Maybe not. Okay, someone had suggested them. I looked them up. Didn't see any connection between them and fossil, but when I hear fossil and I hear cheap, I'll believe it. Okay. All right. So that's where we are on that. Tony Zodiac uses them. Some of them, though, it was sort of interesting, is that for 120 Swiss francs extra, they would get the COSC version, which I thought was really interesting. Um, Having a COSC version simply means that they went through more trials and combinations of things. Um, so we tried it. Hi, Andrew. How you doing? And Tony. And I see who else to say. I have it. Hi, Forbin and Williams watches. Let's see. Okay. I got a Gear smart watch and app called Fesser. You can get hundreds of faces. Okay. Hey, Joseph, since we are now looking for affordable movements, why not go for a small step and step beyond horage? Okay. Well, we're not necessarily looking at the cheapest ones. It was simply, well, I suppose we are, but not. We're looking at options, and I think that, as far as I'm concerned, I'd probably go with the $4,000 UWD simply because I like. I know that Marco Lang did it, and he's. I mean, it's really a very high quality thing. On the other hand, though, if everyone said, "Hey, let's go get a Boss," sure, I'd rather do that because it's a lot less expensive. But then we have to get 25 people together, and I don't know if that would be possible or not. So, this is sort of where we are on that. There's plenty of good, cheap movements. In fact, I got a drawer full of very good movements that are mostly Chinese knockoffs of ETAs. And so if we went with STP, I don't know what we'd end up with, but in looking at them, they don't look, there's not much finishing or anything else to them. Uh, but like let's say, for example, that I got a hold of uh, Agenor, and I said, look, maybe we can do this, but could you guys wait until like next year, the summer of 2021? Okay, yeah, I'd wait, and uh, want everything to go well with it. Okay. Okie doke. The Horage movement looks interesting. Um, I'll tell you, Mark, when you say something looks interesting, when you say a movement looks interesting, that's like, a blind date. What does she look like? Well, she's interesting. That's We got to be careful on that. All right. My issue with a COSC STP would be how long does it stay? Yeah, Exactly. That's exactly the issue. I think it's important for everyone to understand is that if we're going with COSC, any watch you can make COSC, but the question is that will it stay that way? Because what they do is that they take the watch and they measure it at this, like this, and then this and this, and they go through, I think, 6 or 7 positions and get it set for every one of those positions, or really what comes out to be an average. And once they have that, then that's what you get as COSC. Uh, yeah, Mark, that was sort of was somewhat of my idea too. Is that you know if we're waiting for a better if we wait for a better movement, it's going to take them a while. We can play around with a cheap one. That was exactly what I was thinking, Mark. Um, but in waiting for a more expensive one, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know who Nancy Culp is. I hope she's nice. Okay. All right. Don't forget to tell us what's on your wrist. Okay. On my wrist is my Harry Winston. It's called the Harry Winston Premier by Retrograde. And the by Retrograde, by the way, is by Agenor. And the way I know that is that I wrote them and they sent me a picture of their movement that's in this watch. And the movement, the base movement is by Gerard Perregaux. And it's got retrograde movement. I think I had this on a while ago. This retrograde movement shows the day of the week and then it's seconds. So the seconds retrograde is really humping away there. Bing, bing. It's really working hard. Okay, that's it. Don't. Okay, so I took care of that, Raj. Where's your Johnny Cupcake garments? Oh, I got a Johnny Cupcake mask. That's over where I keep my mask. Okay. Anyway, thanks, Tony. All right. So let's see some other things. Now this is something that I ran into, and I'm going to gotta get comfy. I may mangle this, but the well, there's two things. First thing I wanted to mention, by the way, if there are a number of us who, for a number of years now, have gone to the Watch Time show that's in October. I think it's like near the end of October. I've already signed up for it and everything else. Now, from everything I know, they seem they're still going to have it, and but they may not. And I was just sort of curious about these the watch gatherings in this fall. They talk about the pandemic coming back. It's never left. It's not going. It's not one of those things that changes like the seasons. We've had a lot of misinformation on it, and it's costing lives like mad. With no offense, Oklahoma, but you probably know it better than anybody. Anyway, so some of these things that I was just wondering if any of you had been planning to go to the. Yeah, I'm not Forbin. I'm not. My Harry Winston's going nowhere. I tell you, a company that makes a lot of really interesting and quite good retrogrades is Maurice Lacroix. But there are other ones too. There's I've been finding. Oh, so does the one Chanel has a nice one. Okay, the one that we were looking at has a nice one. These are all retrogrades, and this is also another nice one. But I'm not selling my Harry Winston, but I may get another retrograde. Um, yeah, my Seiko 5. But this one, this has been a great watch for going on walks. This is my morning walk watch. I mean, I got to go in the morning. It has gotten hot and muggy. It's not the heat; it's the humidity, and that's very true. You said it's like a seat belt. You don't get the point where you did enough and can stop wearing it. Hmm, okay. Wanted to go last year. Probably won't go this year either. Going to limit my travel. Yeah, this is one of those hard things. On the one hand, I like to go because I it's fun seeing everybody and seeing the watches and having too much to eat and drink and doing everything I shouldn't do. So I would miss that a lot. But we'll see what happens. It's what is it, June, and I can't tell the day of the week, let alone the month anymore. So that's where we are now. What is under the glass moving holder behind you? Oh, those are my that's my screwdriver wheel. That's got my whoa. Um, what I did is that I got a bell jar for those to keep the dust off of my screwdrivers. That's all that is. I plan to be at the show if the pandemic permits. Yeah, Joseph, that's pretty much the way I feel about it too. Hi, Johnny. Um, yeah, bears. Yeah, me and my bears. Okay, now this is the other thing I wanted to talk about that I think is both interesting and something I've got a lot more to look into. And I think when we're talking about high horology, this is something that I think is needs to be addressed in some way. I was reading about Daniel Roth, and Roth I just thought was he's got like a super reputation. I had no idea though what a really excellent watchmaker is. He and Philippe Dufour are buddies. They live about 3 minutes away from each other, and I don't know if it's in La Chaux de Fonds or outside of it, some little Swiss village. Anyway, what I want to talk about is that they have this trays with all these little boxes. Uh, when I was taking these New York High Horology Society workshop, they gave us these round trays, and they had these little dips in it, and you'd put the different parts in the dips. And what what I've seen, not only with Daniel Roth's workshop, but a lot of different other ones workshop too, is that they have these trays with all these little squares in it, and each one has a different part. And they were talking about a system that was called the établissage. And that system was one where all of these experts in one thing used to work together. I had a quote that I tried to put up this morning, and it didn't work. Let me see if I can find it, and I'll read it to you. I had it. Okay, this is to give you an idea of all of the different roles that are involved in making a watch. Let me read this quickly. Okay, it says formerly the individual work of a Nuremberg artificer, the watch has been transformed into the social product of an immense number of detailed laborers, such as mainspring makers, dial makers, spiral spring makers, which I think are hairsprings, jewel hold makers, ruby lever makers, hand makers, case makers, screw makers, gilders with numerous subdivisions, such as wheel makers, brass and steel separate, pin makers, movement makers, um, archiveur de pignon finis, puts the wheels and springs in the works, finisseur de barlet, cuts teeth in the wheels, makes the holes of the right size and placement. Escapement makers, cylinder makers for cylinder escapements, escapement wheel makers, balance wheel makers, rocket makers, apparatus for regulating the watch, the planture, this escapement, made proper. Then the repressor, the barlet, finishes the box with the springs, steel polishers, wheel polishers, screw polishers, fixture painters, dial enamelers, uh, fabricant dependence maker makes the ring by which the case is hung, finishers decartonate, puts a brass hinge on the cover, faster the secret. That sounds interesting. Puts the springs in the open case, gravure, ciselure, all of these other things. And last of all, the repressor who fits together the whole watch and hands it over in a going state. So that, by the way, too, that was a long sentence. That was in a single sentence, all of those different things. Now, they called this the établissage system because each one of these was made by a different person. And they all had all these little cottage industries all around La Chaux de Fonds. So some watchmakers prefer that system. And so, and one of them is Daniel Roth. And so he has this box and he's got all these contacts. And somebody else who I think is using a very similar system is Richard Harbring. Uh, and so now we're talking about, this whole thing about in-house movements. Some places like Beauvais bought a movement making company and then uh, added a whole bunch of things to it and called it Demier 17 something or other. But it was when I was reading that, boy, this is really interesting stuff because on the one hand, you want your master watchmaker not to be there sawing a wheel or something like that, but rather designing it and then ordering the different things that they need, each one built by a specialist in that area. So anyway, that was something I thought I'd throw out there. That was the Jura way of doing things, very different from how they developed stuff in Geneva. Yeah, that's true. And it's but it's something that we don't have to get just Geneva watches, right? I know that F.P. Journe probably is one of the ones who did it very much the Geneva way because everything he has, he seems to be doing in his workshops, not himself, but himself plus the people working for him. But that sort of is, let's say, the Jura way. I like that. That's a lot easier for me to mispronounce. The in that sense, uh, so you're looking at a wheel or you're looking at something in your watch. You say, "Wow, now that one was done by the person who is an expert in that." And isn't that interesting? Okay. Now this goes into the other thing that sort of been coming up somewhat, and that is the whole definition of high horology. And I'm pretty well convinced that high horology is the simply a marketing tool to a great extent. Finishing, yes, that's nice to have nice finishing on your watch. But I've seen some people who are, they're sort of Rudy Poo, pretentious watchmakers like me, and they spend a little time with it. They get it all polished up and they get it sanded down, and they really have gorgeous looking movements after doing that. And it's sort of one of those things like, okay, so you're going to pay $20,000 more because something's got a nice finishing job. And so it's something I think for collectors, one of the most important things I think we need to ask is the quality of the movement as it's made by somebody. Okay, now some systems like well, you take Patek Philippe for example. We don't know who made that. You get something by F.P. Journe, you do. You get something by Harbring, you know who made it. And it's not to say that Patek Philippe does a bad job because they don't. They do a great job. Same thing with Rolex. You get these dependable, tough tool watches, and they work. But the other part of it is that we keep forgetting. We have these people saying, "Well, listen, the COSC is really important." And I looked into what the high horology requirements were, and I didn't see where it said they had to be COSC. None of FP Journe's are COSC. He wouldn't deign to have one of his watches judged by anybody else. And I think if they took one of his watches and they ran it through the COSC, they'd probably find it to be well into their quality. But it's asking some of these things. I think is becomes something for us as collectors, worth talking about. So let's see what you guys have to say. Um, okay. Should learn to recognize quality, finishing innovation instead of just trying to make stuff fit into a ridiculous definition. Yeah, no, Hugh, I'm very much for that. Yes, yes, indeed. But we've got to start somewhere. All right, and in terms of recognizing that. Um, so this is not something that the marketing people or the manufacturers are going to do for us. That's not into their benefit. This is why I'm more and more. I like looking at independent uh, watchmakers, especially those who get in trouble. All right, they, well, not all of them. Like Jacques, my favorite outlaw, he got in trouble. I'll tell you something too that was really interesting. Calumet, I don't know if you've heard of Calumet or not, but at one time they were among the tip top uh, watchmakers. Well, Calumet, and I think their major guy that was working for them as a watchmaker was Daniel Roth, who I've been trying to find out about. Well, what happened to that? He was doing great. He was happy. They gave him let him do whatever he wanted pretty much, and then everything crashed. And then the Calumet brothers had to go to jail because they were involved in some kind of financial shenanigans, and off they went. So, it's sort of like here's this watchmaker making all of these really incredible watches during the Calumet era, and suddenly, boom, that disappears. And so he keeps having to reinvent himself. So for a while, he didn't have any boss, and he was doing everything. And so there's this one guy at High Horology Lounge that really into him, and so there are all of these different places. So if you buy a watch between 2006 and 2008, he was doing this. It was between 2000 and 2005. It was totally different, and before that, he was working for, you know, I don't know, Audemars Piguet, I think, for a while. But anyway, these kinds of things. And so, Hughes, when you're talking about this stuff with high horology, I couldn't agree more than recognizing good work on a watch. And this is also why I probably one of the few companies I shouldn't be so contemptible of them, but I am, and that's Jacob the jeweler. Those Jacobs things, people see those. Oh boy, those are really neat. And they're they're bling and baloney is really what they're made of. It was sort of interesting. They spent a whole lot of money last year entering. I think they entered a total of 5 or 6 watches in the Grand Prix, and 2 of them were finalists in the jewelry category, and none of them won anything. But it was sort of like, you know, that's why I like the Grand Prix is that you can fool people like us for a while, but when you get those people together, it's a little harder to fool. Maybe it's easier to pay off, though. Who knows? Okay. Um, the notion of high horology was created in the 70s to try and separate Swiss quality high end stuff and the up and coming cheap court stuff. Yeah. Well, also too, I don't know if it's so much to separate them, but to invent something that that they could charge a lot of money for. And so, and then they, and the, if you look at the foundation of the High Horology Foundation, the whole thing is sponsored by Richemont. So that should tell you something, okay? I mean, it should tell you a lot. And so this is why I'm saying is that, rather than being passive recipients of whatever somebody in marketing or other, some bean counter figures that we should have, is that we really need to look at this stuff. This is something like this. Roger Dubuis was just, he was just really good watchmaker, excellent watchmaker. So when he leaves uh, the company that's called Roger Dubuis, the first thing they did was that they started putting in cheaper material. Like instead of having a gold rotor, they put in a metal one. And not only was there a gold rotor, but there was all these inscriptions and all of this other really cool stuff on them. And if we know more, we get more. That is as simple as that. Today I was looking at a watch. Has Ulysse Nardin, and it was the movement was called the UN-20, but a UN-20 is an ETA, and this is the kind of stuff that I think is worth digging into. Not that anything is wrong with an ETA inherently, but it's a lot cheaper than other things that they will automatically try and charge us more for. I mean, the whole idea of becoming a brand worshiper, just that drives me nuts. Okay, I've been going on, and let's see what do you guys have to say? Okay, what do I know about the Weiss movements? This is this guy out in California, right, Tony? The limits of my language is the limits of my world. Ludwig Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein, when you invent a term, you cause human eyes to see things in a new way. Boy, Wittgenstein, we're really getting into uh, not only high horology, we're getting into some real thought. I don't know how many times I've read Wittgenstein. It's like climbing a glass mountain. Every you go up, okay, okay, and then whoop, slip down. But that Wittgenstein's very interesting stuff, Andrew. It was a great quote that you had for that. Okay, Roger was tongue in cheek, so it doesn't count. All right. Hey, Joseph, what's going on? Wittgenstein is partially right. Oh boy. Okay, is this going to be a Wittgenstein versus Karl Popper meeting we're having today? I like them both, so I'm out of it. Okay, if you want something interesting, the ultralight is cool and offers value. Okay. All right. Concept. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. We can talk about anything we want. I wonder if Seneca has any quote about watches. Yeah, something about the time on a cloudy day is difficult to discern. How about that? Okay, guys, listen. Thank you all for coming today, and I must have done something wrong. I still don't know what it is, but we're out for now. So, any thoughts you have, take care and have the rest of your day to be a nice, safe one.